When is a frontline job not actually a frontline job is someone who trains drug detector dogs classified as back office. What about those intelligence analysts who are hunting down paedophiles? Are they frontline? Customs officers at our ports, they seem like frontline too, but these are the jobs that are being scrapped, proposed to be scrapped anyway, due to the coalition government's cost-cutting exercise. And that's despite promises on the campaign trail last year that the frontline roles would indeed be safe. Joining us to talk about this is the Prime Minister, Christopher Luxon, in studio, which is fantastic.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good.
Are cutting senior customs officers at Auckland, Whangarei, Gisborne, Invercargill, Timaru, are those frontline roles?
Well, look, ultimately those are decisions left for the chief executives of the government agencies. All we've said to them is, look, we need you to generate some savings, look at your organisations, make sure that you've got everything focused on delivering better frontline services and outcomes for New Zealanders. How you choose to organise your structures is up to you to deliver that task. That's what we hold them accountable for.
Have you told them not to touch frontline roles?
Well, in the case of customs, for example, I think from memory there's about 80 roles being disestablished. Half of those are actually vacant roles today, so there's actually nobody in those jobs. There's also restructuring of the CE's leadership team, as I understand it. There's also restructuring of the communications team. But ultimately, that CE and that minister need to know that they're actually organising that department to actually deliver those outcomes. And that's okay. Organisations need to evolve. Organisations need to be retuned to make sure they actually deliver outcomes for New Zealanders.
And we've heard that from you for about a year now about
exactly.
outcomes. But
well, it's very simple. We're moving the back office priority and resources to make sure we protect and enhance frontline services.
It doesn't sound like you are, because these are frontline roles. These are people who are preventing drug traffickers from coming into our ports. And these, Timaru, a drug dealer's now going to start targeting Timaru now.
Well, I just say to you, we are a government that is going to restore law and order. You've seen that yesterday around 3 strikes. You've seen that with the investment in more police officers coming. You've seen that with respect to gang laws. You'll continue to see that with respect to youth offending. So I would
not regarding this, though.
I would actually just let the process run, and I'd let, as we all be confirmed in the budget, but I just say to you, we have been given very clear instructions to say we're ending wasteful spending, we're stopping dumb programs that aren't working, we're very comfortable to have organisations reorganise themselves so they can actually deliver improved outcomes for New Zealanders.
Okay, is dumb spending is training detector dogs, is that dumb spending? Because 2 out of 3 detector dog training roles, you're getting rid of those.
Again, those will be issues for actual CEs of biosecurity in this case, or customs, to make sure that they've got the resources in the right places to deliver the outcomes that we will hold them accountable for. Let's be really clear. I'm moving government to focus on outcomes and delivery to improve services for New Zealanders.
But how do you do that?
How CEOs then choose to do that, how they choose to spend their budgets, how they choose to use their human resources, how they choose to use their priorities around the programs that they're doing, stopping stuff that's not working, putting more resources into things that are. That is how CEOs get different results with actually the same amount of money or different use of deployment of resources. So, I just want everyone to understand, just that the quantum of money is important. As I said, we're going to invest more in the budget in some of our key frontline services, health, education, oranga tamariki, police. There'll be more funding and financing and uplift in the budget for those frontline services. But even those organisations still have opportunities to stop. You've seen it in health. As I keep saying, I don't want 200 spin doctors. I want 200 real doctors.
Well, they're about to strike as well.
To be honest, right?
There's 2,500 doctors that are going to go striking as well. We'll get to that later. I just want to talk about these job cuts, because to me they seem like frontline stuff. And I've heard, you talk about this all of last year on the election campaign, about frontline staff will be safe. But when you look at some of the roles that are going...
Well, no, what I've been saying very clearly is frontline services need to be protected. And that is about, because I want the focus on the outcomes, not all the activity. There's, just to put it in a bit of context, 18,500 extra public servants since the previous government came to power. So, that is a huge amount of extra people in Wellington in the government agencies. And the question is, every single result has gone backwards. So, so there is a better way, as I know as a former CEO,
and I get that
when you take over a company that might be badly performing, you can reorganise yourself.
I get that, and I kind of agree with you.
Money, frankly.
Because but the fact that they hired thousands more people and they got worse outcomes, I think most people would find that appalling. My question is, are they cutting the wrong people? Are the chief executives intentionally cutting frontline staff to make you look silly? Do you think they're doing that? Are they doing this to sabotage you?
Well, I'll just say to you, we've been crystal clear with CEOs about what we expect them to deliver. I've put in place 9 better public service targets, which are very, very important that they are all driving towards, the ministers and the CEOs together. The ministers go through those programs as CEOs. They get reassured in the case of veterans or in the case of, what did I see recently, customs. They get reassured that they are comfortable that the frontline services and the goals will be delivered. But ultimately, we're very clear about making sure we measure people on results, not actually on activity and busyness. There's a big difference between everyone being busy and doing stuff and actually not getting a result. And that's what's been going on.
We had the Public Service Association on earlier, Fleur Fitzsimmons. We just want to play a little grab from here and get your response to it, please.
It's absolute rubbish that the government claims that these aren't frontline roles. These are people who work on the front line of New Zealand's border security, doing everything they can to stop things like illegal drugs and firearms coming into New Zealand. The government has really been caught out here. There are losses to our frontline border security, and they should front up and admit that their tax cuts are now affecting frontline services.
Now, I know that she did stand for the Labor Party at the last election.
I think that would be a very good disclaimer to put on your super there, that Labor Party candidate and member would be helpful. I
mean, I don't know if she's still a member, but she is a unionist, and Labor's full of unionists. You know what Labor's like with the unionists.
Apparently the CTU and Labor are independent bodies. There's no tie-up, as we remember, during the campaign.
they are linked, though. So, and I'll be the first...
Oh, come on, Lloyd, you can't say that. Come on.
I can say it. I don't know if you can. But does Fleur, despite her, being a Labor person, she's working for Public Service Association now, the union for the public servants, and she does have a point, even if she does come from a political point there. And the one thing that kind of gets me is you're getting rid of the lead online investigator for digital child exploitation. These are people who hunt down pedophiles.
I fully agree, and those are really important things, and I expect those things to be delivered. Again, those are decisions for a CEO to determine, with the amount of money that they're given, the amount of resources they have, how they organise to deliver those outcomes. Again, I'm not getting into the operational detail of customs per se. I don't think that's appropriate that I do that. What I want to be reassured about, and I want to hold those CEOs accountable for, is those results. So I expect strong border protections. I expect strong protection on all those issues. But I just would, I think that is quite a political sort of piece where you've got a PSA, former Labor person, actually sort of, going after a government proposal that's actually shared with the PSA as a discussion and still a proposal. I think that's pretty unfair.
Yeah, she's standing as a member of the PSA, not as a member of the Labor Party.
But the way
she needed a job because she didn't get in. So.
The process is that CEOs actually think about how they can deliver the outcomes that I've asked them to deliver. They then actually take that proposal and work with the PSA and present that to the PSA. And what you're seeing there is the PSA coming out and talking about a proposal that a CEO wants to work with the union around potential changes that they may make or may not make. And there is a process that we follow where a proposal is kicked off, there is consultation, discussion, and there is often change that comes after the end of that.
Do you think there's any lefty CEOs that are part of the public service that are doing this intentionally to make you look silly, knowing that you said no, the front line is safe, and now they're cutting front lines, and it's making your government look silly rather than...
I'd just say to you, we are a government, as I said, that is going to end wasteful spending. You cannot have the increase in spending.
Answer my question about the CEs. Do you think anyone's trying to undermine you?
The message to the CEs has been pretty clear. I met personally with all 50 of the top agencies, gave the clarity around the why, the what and the how of what our government's here to do, and I think a lot of them understood exactly what we're doing.
So if
they are struggling, they will need to get on the program pretty quickly.
Okay, so you don't think there's any sabotage?
I just think they'll need to get on the program pretty clearly, which is we're a results government, and the sooner the CEs start delivering results, the better.
Okay, let's talk about the Waitangi Tribunal. Are some of your ministers using the Waitangi Tribunal as a bit of a punching bag?
Well, look, I've got to be a bit careful on this conversation because obviously High Court proceedings kicked off yesterday around this issue, and I literally cannot say anything about that. What I can say to you is that, as part of our coalition agreements and what we've agreed to do as a government, is that we do think there is a legitimate question about the role and focus and future for the Waitangi Tribunal, but we will look and explore that in a very proper and considered way.
Does that mean you might get rid of it?
No, again, it's just acknowledging that in a post-settlement world, there is legitimately, a question to be asked about what is the future role and scope of the Waitangi Tribunal, and that is something that you've heard commentators talk about on all sides. Actually, it's just the reality of having got through a lot of treaty settlements. Yes, we've got some more still to do, and we're progressing those at pace. But what I'd say is that there is a legitimate question there. We will do that in a very proper and considered way in the coming months.
Okay. We don't want to be done for sub judice either.
No.
But so let's not talk about Minister Chaw's comments or that case. But what about what David Seymour and Shane Jones have said about it? Because Shane Jones, I think he called it a side hustle. Oh no, that was Seymour who called it a side hustle, and he called it race fantasism, whereas Minister Jones called it a star chamber. Do you still think they're ill-considered?
Look, again, I'm just not going there. I mean, the matter is before the High Court.
Yeah, but not what they said. That's not
but it's inappropriate for me to comment. And so I literally can't comment. And so...
you can comment about those two. That's not before the court.
No, well, the issue is before the courts, and I just think that's inappropriate for me to comment.
OK, all right, well, let's move on. I've just seen Axe Free Press that came out late last night. It says that you've styled yourself as an elite.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah. Why is your coalition partner sending out emails from supporters calling you an elite?
I've got no idea what you're talking about.
Have you styled yourself as an elite?
I've been working pretty hard to about 1 a.m. this morning, and I've got up very early to come and do your fine show with you, Lloyd.
And we do appreciate you coming, and we really do. But have you styled yourself as an elite?
No, I'm actually here focused on making sure I deliver for New Zealanders, and that's what I'm very passionate about. That's what I wake up doing every single day, rebuilding the economy, restoring law and order, delivering better health and education. And that's why I was out last week in Southeast Asia, making sure we could rebuild the economy, get trade, investment going, get those relationships deeper in a part of the world that New Zealand can do incredibly well in. So
and I get that, and you are working hard, and you don't sleep at all, to be honest. Now you've got one of your pesky coalition partners coming out and calling you elite. I just thought I'd get your response to that. 2,500 doctors are striking, or they're planning to strike. There's already, I think, a shortage in the sector of 500 doctors. Why are they doing that?
Yeah, look, I mean, we value our doctors tremendously. There's obviously a negotiation going on between Health New Zealand and the resident doctors. These are resident doctors, and they need to run through that process, obviously. I appreciate there's also strike action that's been planned. As I understand it, doctors will be available during that period. But look, we value our doctors. We know we've got major challenges on our workforce. It's part why we keep saying we want to move the money that's being spent and sucked up into management and back office functions to frontline services for doctors and for nurses. And what I can reassure you is that there'll be more funding in the budget for health, the biggest funding we've probably had. So the reality is that there's a lot of work for us to do around workforce. There's a lot of work for us to do about moving money from the bureaucracy out to the frontline services. We get that. We've started that process, and we know there's a lot more for us to do. But we have amazing doctors. We are short doctors. We're short nurses. We're trying to open up settings in our immigration settings. We're also trying to progress a third medical school, as well as expand places in Auckland and Otago, so we get more homegrown doctors over time as well. So we know that there's a major workforce challenges. They are built up over the last 6 years. We've got to deal with them, and we've started that process.
Okay, we've got to leave it there. Thank you very much for coming in. I do appreciate your time. That is Prime Minister Christopher Luxon.